optimistic, forward-looking campaign based on positive, conservative solutions to the problems people are facing. We recognize that the answer to the challenges in this country is not simply yelling and screaming and cursing and insulting everybody, but rather real concrete economic proposals to bring back jobs, to bring manufacturing jobs back to Indiana, to raise wages for working men and women, to expand opportunity for those who are struggling. And the energy and momentum continues to grow. I will also note that today marks 46 days since the last Republican debate. 46 days, a month and a half. The Democrats have debated. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders have showed the respect the voters are due by subjecting themselves to the scrutiny of the voters. Indeed, the Democrats are talking about scheduling a second debate, and yet Donald Trump continues to cower in Trump Tower, to be afraid to defend his positions. Once again, I invite Donald Trump, come to Indiana, stand in front of the voters, do a town hall with real Hoosiers, answer their questions. Let's have a debate. A one-on-one debate in front of the people of Indiana, a town hall, and answer the questions. Donald is fond of telling everyone what a strong, tough man he is. Well, he can demonstrate his strength by not hiding in Trump Tower, by coming to Indiana and actually defending his positions. The reason he's been afraid to do so so far is he has no answer when he's asked, how do you bring jobs back to America? He has no answer when he's asked, how do you keep America safe from radical Islamic terrorism? This is a serious time. And the American people want and deserve a serious leader focused on jobs, freedom, and security. That's exactly what I will be and what I will do as president.
Senator, John Kasich, how do you justify that, Senator, as simply not, when you look at this, Donald Trump has hit you already on this, both on Twitter and elsewhere.
If you do win Indiana, what's to stop you from doing a bait and switch competing in New Mexico and Oregon?
Well, we are all in on Indiana. We are competing in this great state. Indiana is a crossroads. It is a crossroads for the entire country. It is big news today that John Kasich has decided to pull out of Indiana, to give us a head-to-head contest with Donald Trump. That is good for the men and women of Indiana. It's good for the country to have a clear and direct choice. After discussions with the Kasich campaign, we made a decision about allocating resources. We decided to allocate our time and energy and resources on the state of Indiana. Governor Kasich decided to allocate his resources elsewhere. I think that made sense from both campaigns.
What would you say to those who believe that a divide and conquer strategy, even if you're not a Trump supporter, nonetheless kind of subverts the will of the people?
This is entirely about the will of the people. This is about winning the votes of the Hoosier state, giving Indiana the opportunity to choose. And we're at a fork in the road. We're at a fundamental fork in the road. If Donald Trump is the nominee, Hillary Clinton wins. Hillary beats Donald Trump by double digits. And if Hillary wins, and wins in a landslide, that not only costs us the presidency, we lose the Senate, we may lose the House, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation, we lose the Bill of Rights, it becomes put into real jeopardy. And I'll tell you, here in the state of Indiana, Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, losing in a landslide, would cost Republican seats all throughout the state of Indiana. We're not going to let that happen. The stakes are too high to allow our kids and grandkids to be buried in trillions more in debt, to continue down another 4 or 8 more years of the failed Obama-Clinton economy, the stagnation that we've been facing. If Donald Trump is the nominee, Hillary Clinton wins, and Indiana's coal industry will be bankrupted. Tens of thousands of jobs will be lost in the state of Indiana if Donald Trump is the nominee, because it guarantees Hillary Clinton a win. If I'm the nominee, we beat Hillary Clinton. We beat Hillary Clinton in key swing states. We beat Hillary Clinton among independents. We beat Hillary Clinton with young people.
Did you offer Kasich any kind of deal to work with you?
We had conversations, and both campaigns agreed to focus our energies. We're focusing our energy on the state of Indiana, and Governor Kasich is focusing his energies elsewhere. I think that is a decision, an allocation of resources that makes a lot of sense, and it's devoted to the principle of beating Hillary Clinton in November and turning this country around.
This is anything other than a political Hail Mary. Some are seeing this as a sign of desperation from both of those camps, that they have to beat Donald Trump together. And you can imagine Donald Trump is going to use that today as he talks about what's being done.
Oh, listen, I don't doubt that Donald Trump is going to scream and yell and curse and insult and probably cry and whine some as well. That has been Donald's pattern. Now, I recognize everyone got all excited because last week Donald won his home state, which I'm amazed that's news anywhere. Of course Donald won his home state. I can tell you, in the 5 elections that preceded New York, over the course of 3 weeks, we won landslide elections in all 5, starting with Utah, then North Dakota, then Wisconsin, then Colorado, then Wyoming. We won 5 landslides in a row, beating Donald Trump 5 times in a row, and 1.3 million people voted in those 5 states. It was a massive turnout. We won landslides, and indeed, I earned more votes in the state of Wisconsin than Donald Trump did in New York. So yes, I agree, there is desperation on the Trump side. And the reason Donald Trump is desperate is because it is now abundantly clear nobody's getting to 1237.
This is not a Hail Mary?
It is abundantly clear that nobody is getting to 1237. We are headed to a contested convention. And at a contested convention, Donald Trump is in real trouble. Why? Because he cannot earn the support of a majority of the delegates elected by the people. Donald has had consistently a hard ceiling of about 40% that he can't break. Donald has been a minority candidate, a fringe candidate. Now, he's benefited early in the race by having a multitude of opponents where the opposition to Donald was diffuse. But what we have seen happening over the last month is the Republican Party uniting behind our campaign. Indeed, of the 17 candidates who started this race, 5 have now endorsed our campaign. Rick Perry, Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, and Carly Fiorina. We are seeing the full spectrum of the Republican Party uniting. And let me say something about the Hoosier state. There is a common sense sensibility about this great state. You've had leaders like Governor Mitch Daniels, like Governor Mike Pence, who roll up their sleeves and solve problems, who understand that when you cut taxes and lift regulations, the result is small businesses grow and jobs expand. We need a president in the spirit of Mitch Daniels and Mike Pence. That is exactly what this campaign is based on. My #1 priority as president is jobs and economic growth. If I'm elected president, we'll repeal every word of Obamacare. We will pass a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS. We will rein in the EPA and the federal regulators, especially the EPA that is killing the coal industry, killing tens of thousands of jobs here in the state of Indiana. And we will stop amnesty and end sanctuary cities. And the effect of all of that is that we're going to see millions and millions of new high-paying jobs coming back to America. We're going to see wages rising again. We're going to see manufacturing jobs coming back to Indiana, coming back from China, coming back from Mexico. And we're going to see young people coming out of school having 2, 3, 4, 5 job opportunities again. That's what this election's all about.
Last question.
Setting his attacks aside, to voters who have watched you run as an outsider all these months, who now see you making this deal with John Kasich, how do you justify that as not collusion?
Listen, I have been from day one an outsider, and the proof is in the pudding.
But now you're making this...
Hallie, let me answer your question, please. The proof is in the pudding. The voters can ask who has stood up and led the fight against the Washington cartel from day one. And I am the only candidate in this race that has taken on not just Democrats, but leaders in my own party over and over and over again. When I ran for Senate, I promised the people of Texas I would lead the fight against Obamacare. That's what I did in the Senate, much to the annoyance of the Washington cartel. And as president, I'll repeal every word of Obamacare. When I ran for Senate in Texas, I promised the voters I would lead the fight against amnesty. That's what I did in the Senate, leading the fight against the Gang of 8 amnesty bill, at the same time that Donald Trump was funding the Gang of 8, giving over $50,000 to the proponents of amnesty. I was leading the fight, and we defeated amnesty in Congress. As president, I will stop amnesty, we'll secure the borders, we'll end sanctuary cities, and we will end welfare benefits for those here illegally.
If you don't take at least a
answer the question respectfully, sir. How is it not collusion? What do you say to those people, though, who say that it's collusion, Senator? I just respectfully go at you at that again. Donald Trump is saying that you are colluding, and we expect to hear that from him again and again on the campaign
Look, I understand that Donald will whine. That's what he does. Donald is a sore loser. When he lost 5 states in a row in landslide elections, Donald threw a tantrum. And his response is to attack the voters. His response is to attack the people. Yes, I get that the Trump campaign is scared. They're scared of Indiana. If Donald wasn't scared, he'd show up in Indiana and have a debate. But he would much rather hide in Trump Tower. He'd much rather stay in northeastern states that tend to be more liberal than actually come to the Midwest, come to the heartland, and defend his policies. In the past week, Donald Trump came out and agreed with Hillary Clinton on raising taxes. In the past week, Donald Trump came out and agreed with Hillary Clinton that adult grown men should be able to go into little girls' restrooms. And in the past week, Donald Trump's campaign manager, who is a longtime Washington lobbyist, and this is important for people to understand, the entire Trump campaign is run by Washington lobbyists. It is the Washington cartel. Donald is the system. It is the lobbyists who are running his campaign. His lobbyist campaign manager went and talked to the top brass of the RNC and said, Donald is just putting on an act. This is a role he's playing. He's just on stage. He's just pretending. He doesn't mean what he said. Now, at first, the Trump camp denied that. That's their standard, is to deny everything. Unfortunately for them, it was actually caught on tape. So we have the tape of Donald Trump's lobbyist campaign manager saying this is all an act, this is all a fake, he's a phony. Interestingly enough, that's almost the exact same thing Donald Trump told the New York Times back in January when he sat down with the New York Times editorial board. Trump told them he doesn't believe what he's saying on immigration. He's not going to build a wall. He's not going to deport anyone. Once again, the New York Times has a tape. Now, the Trump campaign denies he says that, but it won't let the Times release the tape. If he didn't say he's not going to build a wall, he's not going to deport anyone, and he's simply faking it on immigration, then Donald should release the tape, and his supporters should demand that he release the tape and prove his innocence. Donald won't do that for the same reason he won't show up at a debate. Because this is a fraud that the lobbyists in Washington are attempting to perpetuate on the American people. This is a fraud. The stakes are too high for us to get fooled again. And we're all used to politicians who betray us after they get elected. Donald is betraying us before he gets elected, and he's telling us he's lying to us. And so we are fighting to beat Donald Trump for the nomination. We are going to beat Donald Trump for the nomination. No one's getting to 1237. We're headed to a contested convention. And at that convention, the nominee will be decided by whoever can earn the support of a majority of the delegates elected by the people, and I believe the only candidate who will be able to do that is me. And when we earn the support of a majority of the delegates, we're going to go forward and beat Hillary Clinton in November. Donald cannot beat Hillary Clinton in November. Nominating Donald would be a disaster for Republicans, for conservatives, and for the country. And yes, I understand that the Trump campaign is going to scream and cry. That's what they do. Whining is what they do, because you notice it is never, ever, ever Donald's fault. Can anyone think of any instance when Donald has ever said he's done anything wrong? It does not appear that he thinks that's possible, that Donald could do something wrong. So it's always the voters' fault. It's always the people's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. But Donald J. Trump, you know what? We need a president who understands the principle of the buck stops here. Donald Trump needs to learn to take some responsibility for himself. And if he wants to make the case, show up and debate. Don't hide behind your media surrogates because you're terrified of scrutiny. Answer the questions from the voters. Have it be a town hall, real Hoosiers, asking real questions about real problems. And if Donald is too terrified to answer the questions asked by the people of Indiana, how on earth is he going to be able to stand on a debate stage with Hillary Clinton? If he's scared of the voters now, how bad do you think he would be in a general election? And by the way, we've all seen a candidate in a general election who's a loose cannon, who will say any given thing on any given day, who will wake up one day and say, as Donald Trump did, that he thinks women should be punished for having abortions. That's an absurd position.
When he walked back.
That isn't a... You're right, every day, if Donald Trump were the nominee, we would see a circus of loose cannon statements that he tries to walk back the next day. And that would result in disaster for Republicans across the country. Now, I get that Hillary Clinton would be thrilled to see the Donald Trump train wreck in the general election. I get that the media, the network execs in just about every network, are card-carrying Democrats. They are ready for Hillary. Nothing would thrill them more than a bloodbath that elects Hillary Clinton and gets great ratings while it's happening. That is the perfect storm from a media network executive's view, but it is a terrible outcome for the people. And this election is going to be decided by the people. And the Hoosier state, the entire country, its eyes are on this great state to choose which path do we want to go down. Do we want to go down the path of nominating a candidate whose entire campaign platform consists of yelling and screaming and cursing and insulting anyone and everyone he can find? Or do we want instead a positive, optimistic, forward-looking, conservative campaign with real policy solutions to the challenges facing this country that will bring jobs back to America, will raise wages and expand opportunity for everyone? That's what this election's about.
Why wait till this late stage in the race to do